Guess the time is now. Catching beautiful speckled trout on such a well-known area. And what's crazy about this year that I've never seen before, dressed up in got our heavy equipment here. It was pretty doggone chilly this morning, but the crazy thing is, as cold as it is this morning, this area just got hit by a Category 2 just 2 days ago. How crazy is that? Hurricane 1 minute, cold front the next, but it looks like the hurricane brought in some speckled trout right after the World Series. I don't want to sink the grease, but this is certainly not the norm on the size of the trout that we're used to catching on the trestle. They're a little mixed up today. I'm either getting a really good one or a 13, 14 incher. So it's two different crops of fish in here. Not much in the middle. It's either a 2 to 3 pounder or a schoolie. But we just throw him on the floor for a second. We're using the gizzard shad, X-Shad, and I'm gonna tell you the reason why. At least the reason why I chose this one. So I started on the north end this morning, and now, like I said, we just had a hurricane. We just came off of a cold front. We had a lot of northeast winds, north winds the last few days. The water was really pretty on the north end, but I didn't get but one bite. So I really felt confident on the trestle. I wanted to stay in here today, give it a look. So I just started coming down the bridge. Now I figured the further south I got, the dirtier the water was gonna get, as with those north winds. But that's okay, you know, you don't have to fish in the cleanest water you can find. You know, I don't wanna be, my magic thing that I always look for, as long as I can see the head of my trolling motor when it's in the water, that's clean enough. So when I'm coming down the bridge just now, I'm just looking for anything to maybe spark my interest. I mean, it's a very long bridge. The fish can be anywhere in here. And I'm coming down the bridge and I see a whole flock of seagulls and pelicans and little terns all sitting in the same area on the bridge, which tells me, in theory, they're probably resting. That might be where some shrimp and pogies are coming through. That's what they're feeding on. So any kind of observation I can find, whether I got to use birds or, like we talk about all the time, the loons in the water, which I've only seen one loon today. That's more of a wintertime fish. It's gonna make me stop and give it a try. So I stop right at the birds. The water's stained, a lot more stained than it was on the north end, but I'm getting way more bites in this area, as obviously this is where the bait's at. All right, we're fishing a trestle. We've went over this several times. I typically like to make 45-degree angle casts, basically leading the boat in the direction the boat is going. Now, typically I like to fish left to right, just because I'm right-handed. It makes it a little bit easier. But today I'm going right to left, just simply because the wind's light out the north. I don't have any certain area that's ganged up with these fish. I'm just letting that light north breeze just blow me down the bridge. I'm making real long drifts. These fish are spread out and picking off the few that I can catch as we go. So instead of fighting the wind going into it, going left to right. So got a nice little north breeze, making 45-degree angle cast. That way, by the time the lure hits the bottom, I can come straight, lined up with the pilings that I threw at. All right, there's several different styles of strikes that we try to dictate out here, pay attention to. This is deep water jigging with a current, sometimes a moderate chop. They're not gonna be ripping the rod out your hands. This is not simplistic fishing like we went over in several of the previous episodes before it got a little chilly, where you just cast and reel over the grass flat. This is more, a little bit more in depth, a little bit more in detail. So let's talk about some of the different styles of strikes. This is why we try to use that high vis matrix line. These are a couple of the strikes that you can be looking for out here. The first one, probably one of the easier ones to feel or notice. We call it that you got thumped, which means whether it's on the way down or after you pop it, it's while the lure's falling, you can see the whole line will jump. Now, typically when that happens, it's the bigger fish, the bigger trout. It's because they suck it in. That suction they have is so ferocious, it makes the whole line jump. So the fish might not move. He's just sitting down there. That wasn't a thump, but that is a fish. Not a big one. See? Usually it's the big ones that give you the thump. Let me take this one off and I'm gonna go over what a thump is, you know, what to look for with a thump and what that kind of strike was. So, like I said, a thump, you're gonna feel that in your hands. It's a pretty ferocious bite. You're really gonna see it. That little light bow in your line, you're gonna see it jump. Like I said, a lot of times it's like a 2, 3, 4 pound fish. He comes up to the bait, he looks at it, he decides he wants to eat it, and they have that suction force to where they can suck that lure, or they think it's a bait fish, into their mouth. That's what makes the line jump. Now that fish right there, that's a very common bite. That's one of the reasons I popped the lure really hard. I didn't see anything there. I didn't feel anything there. I simply went to jig it. He was sitting on it. That's what we call that. He's sitting on it. Or you know, when we're talking to one another, what are the fish doing today? They're sitting on it today, which means they're not really attacking it. You go to jig it once, the fish is on there, and then when you feel that pressure, you just keep coming up with the rod. Go ahead and set the hook. We always say hook sets are free, which means a lot of times we feel any kind of weight or something off, we got to set the hook, nothing was there. But all you got to do is pause, put your rod tip back down, let the lure settle back to the bottom, and you're right back in the strike zone and continue your retrieve back to the boat. Another strike you're going to get, which I really enjoy it when they're doing this, and typically when this is happening, they're pretty aggressive, is you pop it, pop it, pop it. You got a lot of slack in your line, the lure's falling back to the bottom, and you're watching your line, and all of a sudden you see that big bow in your line just go straight immediately. We call that taking the slack out. So when we talk to one another, what are the fish doing today? That's kind of like they're trying to rip the rod out your hand. You got this big bow of slack. 1 second, you're looking at it. The next second, it's all gone. In the instance, that's a fish that grabbed it, ran off, and he's pulling your slack out. Very easy strike to see, to observe, and that's a really good, when they're doing that, that's really fun. Pretty easy. You know, just like in bass fishing, a lot of people working a worm real slow or some kind of brush hog or something, and they just start seeing their line move sideways, and it's a fish, and you set the hook. In trout fishing, that line's not going to just start moving sideways real slow. It's going to move really, really fast, and trout are going to pick that lure up, and they're going to drop it really quick. So the moment you see anything, you feel a thump, you see your line straighten out, you feel any kind of resistance, you got to set that hook immediately. You can't be slow with these fish, you can't be soft, you can't take your time, you got to drive that hook in 12 to 15 foot of water, and you got to do it instantaneously, because by the time you're feeling that come up to your hand or in your rod, if you're not fast on the trigger, they're gonna pick that. They done picked that lure up 3 seconds ago, and they already dropped it. Ooh, that was the thump. That was the thump we talked about earlier. Pop, pop, jig, jig, jig. Went to go let it fall, and pow, nailed it. I don't think that fish was that big, because like I discussed earlier, when it's the big ones thumping it, they're sucking it in. There's no way to get thumped that hard. I set the hook and nothing was there. But that was what we call an air ball. Thump, you go to hit him, and just you got nothing. That fish, I don't even know if he ever felt the hook. He hit it, let it go. Pretty fast there. Oh, missed him again. Come on now. Let's just can't be too big of a fish. Usually when you're missing a lot of fish, it's not a big one. Or you're missing a fish multiple times, it's a little school of small ones. Them big ones, you don't miss them too often. They might get off when you're railing them in because they're so good and creative at coming up and shaking that head. And their mouths are soft, so that resistance can tear that mouth. But them little ones, a lot of times they whop it and you don't even ever get a hook in them. If you want to cast back in there a few times. Had 2 bites off that pole. Now, both of those bites were kind of far off. That's why you don't want to always hug the bridge. Throw back in there one more time before we move on. I don't usually spend a lot of time on a certain pilot or two just because I got a bite. I'm rolling. I like to roll down the bridge. Now I'll work a section over, like 2 or 3 fire break sections. Now, I'm not going to sit and hone in on a couple pilings. The tide's starting to fall with a little bit of velocity now. You know, and a lot of people always ask me, well, what side of the bridge do you fish? And you fish the north end, the south end. I mean, every day is different, guys. This is a very unique place to fish. There's no secret spots. You just got to cover water and know, you know, what decisions to make. Now, tide's falling. 8 out of 10 times, I'm going to be on the east side on a falling tide. Much easier to work the lure. That gives it a natural presentation coming back with the current. Easier to get the lure to the bottom. I just enjoy fishing this east side on a falling tide, but there is an exception. Sometimes the trout are just flat want to be on the west side, no matter what the tide's doing. If that's the case, you got to get on the west side. I hate when that's the case because typically the live bait fishermen and the recreationals, they like the west side better, so then it can get a little crowded. But when I will stay on the west side religiously is when we got flounder in the lake, on the bridge, I would say. For whatever crazy reason, the flounder on this bridge, and this is a fantastic flounder fishery, they love the west side of the bridge. I have no idea why. It's been like that since I was a kid. So when the flounder are here, you want to target the west side, that way you can catch a trout and the flounder. Catching 20 trout and 10 flounder, that's pretty common, you know, when the fish are here. So on an incoming tide, obviously you're gonna almost always fish the west side. But on a falling tide, I like the east, and like I said, unless the flounder are here, then I'll spend more time on the west side. That way I can catch 2 species, the trout and the flounder. Now right here I got kind of a little landmine. I'm gonna skip that pile, and I don't really feel like catching that crab trap. Funny, some days out here you go through 2 packs of jig heads, some days you don't go through any. So on the same lure, same jig head for today. And what we're using is a 3/8 ounce black platinum, mellow tide, nice tide, slack tide. I love the 3/8. If the tide's really light, you can drop down to a 5/16 if you want to be a little more finesse. If the current's ripping, and like we showed, that's a trout. He's a pretty good one. There's no way. No way. Unless I got him foul hooked. I don't know what this is, guys. My guess is as good as yours. I'm gonna say possibly. I don't think it's a flounder either. Drum. That'll work. Put something on the grill. Put something on the grill, baby. Don't matter to me, guys. I just like catching fish. Sheephead's my favorite, but they are so hard to catch on plastic. These look like sheephead, often confused. Swing you in the boat. There we go. But these guys love some nature shad. It's a good bycatch to have, good problem to have, catching these 16 to 20 inch drum. It's a good fish to eat on the grill, guys. There's absolutely zero difference between a drum and a redfish when you go to eat it. Now, what's more fun? Redfish, because you can get in them ponds like we showed on a gazillion DockSide TVs. Simply just search DockSide TV sight fishing and you can sight fish them, which you don't really get to do with the drum all that much. But awesome tasting fish. Now, as you can see, there they go. As I talked about before, coming down the bridge this morning, didn't know really where to stop. Started seeing seagulls, all concentrated on the bridge. I don't know if you can see it also, they got a whole pot of them sitting down on the water right through the bridge on the other side. And that just tells me, I mean, if you pass that up, that section, you're crazy. Like, are you gonna catch fish just because there's birds on the bridge? No, not necessarily. But if you got 6 miles of bridge and you got this one 200-yard section that the birds are hanging out, I highly recommend fishing that section of the bridge. So that's what I did today. I stopped in that section. I'd only had one bite in the morning on the north end. Water's dirtier where I'm at now. Put the trolling motor down, could see a little bit. Water clarity was good enough. Start casting, third cast, boom, fish. Now we're not smoking them, but about every fire break or so, every set, like from fire break to fire break, I'm getting 2 to 3 bites. That's pretty standard trestle fishing. It's a grind, you gotta work at it. And you know, my key point right here is to be observant. You see seagulls or pelicans honing in on an area, there's a reason why. There we go, a little bit better fish. It's about your average size right now at 16, 17 incher. You're gonna run up depending on the day and depending on what kind of year we have, but on the track, you can get a 4 or 5 pounder. That's about what they cap out at. Again, that's that gizzard shad, and that is something you can get in your monthly bait box for this month. The X shad, we went with this one because, like I said before, it's got some really pretty flake in it, really shines in the water. It's a little bit stained today after not only a hurricane, but a cold front. So, hope you enjoyed this episode of DockSide TV, catching big yellowmouths on the new X Shad. Subscribe to the Matrix Bait Box if you want to get a handful of these in your box with some 3/8 ounce golden eyes. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check out all of our bridge fishing episodes as we bridge fish from here all the way to Florida, and go over some great techniques on deep water jigging. Until next time, good fishing. You got my basket? Huh?
Daddy, did you get anything?
Yeah, I got some fish. What kind you think I got?
Red.
Huh?
Red.
No reds today. What other kind you think I got?
Speckle.
Speckled what?
Trout.
Speckled trout. Yeah, girl. We got some speckled trouts. I got another one that you've probably never seen before. A drum. You want to see a drum? Here, come put the basket right here. I'll put him in there.
I'm gonna put it right here.
All right. Look at this big old drum. Look out. You hear him drumming? Listen to him.
Don't drum it.
That's why they call him drum. Watch. He makes drum noise. Listen. See if you can hear him. You hear it?
Yeah.
You hear it? You hear him drumming?
Yeah. Daddy, come and see our cupcakes.
Hold on, let me get these
We
fish out.
didn't watch.
All right, I'll look at your cupcakes if you look at my fish. Look at these big speckled trouts today. Big speckled trouts. Look. Look at this one. Ooh. Is that a nice one? You gonna bring it over here? drumming?
Yeah.
Ready? Go!
Dad, don't throw them.
Don't throw them? Okay.
Because they're going to break.
Oh, break?
Yeah.
Look, I got the big ones that Daddy likes, and then I got some little ones that you like. You like the little ones, right?
Yeah.
Look, I got little ones.
That was my size, the little one.
Okay, now the little ones.
Dad, you got me wet.
You gonna touch them?
No.
Why didn't you come fishing with Daddy today?
Because I just wanted to play.
What all?
Caught more if you were helping. There's a nice one, huh?
Tell Dad what all we did.
What all did you do, baby?
Bake cupcakes.
Baby cupcakes.
And what else?
What else you do, bud?
We didn't go to the park?
Yeah.
Yeah.